Good morning, and welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church for the in-person service and also the online people. Whether today is your first time or you've been coming for years, we are glad you are here and you are welcome, and this is an open community. My name is Keith Prairie. My pronouns are he and him. And I am a member of, the worship committee and at least a few other things around here. We are a growing community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel on and care for this earth. Welcome also to those at home who are joining us on Zoom. If you're attending for the first time, please go to our website and fill out a welcome card so we can know more about you. This morning's service is about warmth and is presented by Allen Avenue's Worship Committee. Now, warmth can mean so many things. Physical warmth, warm and spicy foods or drinks, having warm feelings, warming up before exercise, and more. In this cold month of January, join the worship committee this morning. Let's talk about warmth. Lay-led service is a tradition at this and many Unitarian Universalist societies. At Allen Avenue, the worship committee either sponsors or presents one service each month. On most other Sundays, services are led by our minister, Reverend Tara Humphreys. And I do have an announcement from the Buildings and Ground Committee. They are excited to have hired a professional service to clean our church each Friday evening and set up the sanctuary for Sunday morning. Yay, Buildings and Grounds. After the service, please stack all the chairs against the side wall to accommodate the cleaners and other users of the space. So we're back to that routine. Okay. Well, now we invite you all to take a moment and make sure your electronics are silenced, please. Yes. After the service, please grab a cup of coffee in the kitchen and stay for conversation. We encourage you to find somebody who you haven't met yet and introduce yourself. Those on Zoom can stay connected afterwards for a sharing time there. And now let us center our hearts and minds with the ringing of the bell.
These are the words for chalice lighting. May the symbolic heat of this tiny flame imbue us all with warmth and connection. May we carry this outside these walls long after this flame is extinguished. Our words for call to worship and action are by Sharon Wiley this morning. It is said that ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I say we're all afflicted and we're all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we here find peace in times of tumult. May we here invite tumult into lives of peace. May we here find calm in times of restlessness. May we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be the place you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place you imagine for yourself something new and unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world. Come, let us worship together.
Please join us in our opening hymn, number 84 in your gray hymnal, How Far Can Reach a Smile? The words should also be on the screen.
This working? Yeah. And this is how I feel about warmth. It's called How Much Warmth is Too Much. My furnace bit the dust last spring. I was lucky it didn't happen a month or two earlier, but to tell the truth, after it died, I would have turned the heat up a number of times if only I'd been able to. It was still cold outside. I was cold. My house felt the chill down to its bones, and so did I. I couldn't replace the furnace right away, so I just dressed in layers, hovered by the stove whenever I cooked something, and longed for the comfort of being warm. As summer came and the chill eased, the concept of warmth kept floating around in my brain, and it's still there. I think I'm getting a glimpse of what it's trying to tell me. In my mind, I equate warmth with comfort and ease. I love lounging around with my iPad, my knitting or a book, and especially with a snuggly kitty who loves being warm even more than I do. It's so nice to be lulled into physical contentment. But I also know there's such a thing as being too comfortable, literally and symbolically. I don't think that applies to cats, though, but it's definitely the case for me. I have the worst time getting myself outside to walk when it's cold, and that means all winter long. But once I'm out there, I'm invigorated by the chilly air. My body and thoughts are stimulated by feeling not totally comfortable. I see what's around me more keenly. I notice shapes and angles, and take pictures of bare trees instead of flowers and greenery. In my mind, cold has connotations of having to try harder, make an effort, meet a challenge. For me, fear and loneliness can also creep in there, so my tendency is to avoid the whole thing. But as with my winter walks, if I let myself get out there into the colder regions of life, I can find exhilaration and spiritual purpose. Thank you.
Well, greetings and salutations. I am Rick Kimball, and I'm here to share a hitherto undiscovered existential understanding. Now, when I hear the word warm, I sometimes think fuzzy, as in warm and fuzzy. This is odd, because the word warm contains the word war. And wars might be hot or cold, but they are never, ever fuzzy. Still, there's a connection because we sometimes wage war over warm. Consider the competition of thermostat, so familiar to the old-timers here at Allen Avenue. The object is to be the last person to reach the thermostat and set it to your own comfort level. Now, this might sound more like a game than a war, but come here some Thursday night and watch the choir fighting it out. Just as Dale gives a downbeat, one member or another may leap up and announce a bathroom break, and then on the way out, while everybody else is singing, veer around to pass the thermostat and give it just a little bit of a nudge. The choir has a war chest filled with woolen coats and bamboo fans. I sometimes sit shivering in the back row while a soprano sits in the front fanning herself with her music folder. Now, if you wish to understand the meaning of this, and that's why we are in church, to probe and discover the meaning of all things, then know that we are all at different points on the warm-cool continuum. Some like it raging hot, some like it freezing cold, and never the two shall agree, despite our A2U goal of accepting all others, whatever their feelings and their beliefs. Well, by the way, there's a second hot, warm, cool, cold continuum that applies to food. In my own family, the divide is generational. Tyrrell and I munch happily at the cool end, and our sons and their kids have learned to order their hot sauce on the side so that we can all share without torching elderly taste buds. By the second way, to continue my existential explanations, all life can be understood in terms of continua. Know that, and you can meet your dream of achieving wisdom, which you can do today, right now, thanks to me. Understand just this, that it's not a cosmos we are in, but a continuopia. The line from warm to cool is just one example. I've often spoken here about opposites and opposites in interplay. Everything has an opposite, and in between each pair is a playground that, together with the extremes, forms a continuum. By the third way, I am keeping a careful eye on the thermostat back there. So if you are comfortable, live in peace. If you are uncomfortable, deal with it. Well, where was I? Oh yes, opposites like warm and cold, like war and peace, like life and death, or black and white, or airplanes and submarines, or giraffes and anteaters, or progressives and backwarders. All of these opposites are at the extreme ends of the wondrous and numberless continua that are the extraordinary essence of human existence. But it's not just human existence. There's a God continuum too. Did you know that? We see the infinite creator at one end, birthing and controlling all with a casual wave of the wand. At the other end sits the nitpicker God figure, contending with prayers about who should win what ball game, and decreeing that some of us, by name, will hit humongous home runs, while others will sadly strike out. So what does all this say to us? that we should, one, identify the many continua that we are on, then two, determine where we fit on each of them, and three, learn to accept people sitting elsewhere, and four, find the value in these people's choices. Now, I know somebody in this church who keeps their home thermostats much, much lower than the rest of us do. A visit might promise discomfort, but there's value in that. People love to go to that cool house in the dead of winter because when they do, they shiver and shake so hard they lose weight. No diet necessary. By the fourth way, the first three having come some paragraphs ago, I see the possibility of a new science here. A science that can define and describe the personality of every person on earth numerically, by adding up and then further processing the numerical points at which the person stands or sits on each of the many continuum of that person's life. Call the science CIA, for Continuum Identity Assessment. We are talking about 8 billion people, each on a whole lot of continua, so we might need to wait for the development of quantum computers, big enough to handle all the required data and assign a unique descriptive number to each of us. When that grand day arrives, there'll be no need for names anymore. No arguments over who should be called what. No word wars. Everybody gets a unique number. Well, are you warming to that idea? Good, because warm is where we started, and warm is where we should end. Blessed be everybody. Be blessedly warm.
Good morning. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Furniture Friends. Furniture Friends provides donated furniture to people in need through the greater Portland area, fulfilling their mission of creating homes and rebuilding lives. Donations can be made now as the basket is passed through the donate button on our website, or if you are a member on Breeze. If giving through Breeze, please note in the donation is your pledge or a gift to Share the Plate. You may also mail a check directly to the church. If you are visiting us for the first time this morning, please know that your presence is your gift to us. At this time, our offering will be collected and gratefully received. Warmth is a subject that is very dear to me since I always seem to be cold. I was relating a lot to that penguin up there. When I lived in my old uninsulated brick house, the wind whistled through the walls, leaving me shivering, wrapped in blankets, waiting longingly for the spring. But warmth is more than a temperature. It's also a feeling we convey through a warm smile, a warm hug, a warm greeting. It's a feeling of peace and being right with the world. One of my favorite memories of warmth, ironically, took place on a cold, snowy night. I had recently joined the A2U church in Joliet, Illinois, and they have a very active pagan group, and I was curious. It was Imbolc, which is celebrated at the beginning of February, actually only a few days from now, usually February 1st or February 2nd. It is also called Candlemas, a celebration of light, the light returning to the world. Imbolc is a time to burn the evergreens for Yule. We no longer need a reminder that the light will return since we can visibly see the lengthening days as the darkness slowly shakes off the hours of night. This was my first pagan ceremony. My son Christopher was 8 months at the time, and he was my companion for the evening. I had wrapped him up in layers and stuffed him into a snowsuit. The group met around a bonfire, which was in a circle of oak trees on a small horse farm. The night was clear and cold, but the fire was bright and warm. As we stood around the fire, Christopher in my arms, his eyes were wide, entranced by the dancing colors. Our backs were turned to the cold, our faces were alive. As the ritual incantations continued to spin into the sky, his eyes became heavy, and soon he was a dead weight. I laid him gently on the snow, and he slept. The ritual continued as we called on our ancestors to bless candles, and we wished light and love on the winter days to follow. I watched the child sleeping in the snow with the sparks of the fire flying up overhead and the stars and moon shining down. He was at peace, and I was too. I had found my tribe. This is the warmth we all seek, to feel a part of the universe, part of a whole. But it's often hard to know where we fit in or if we will ever fit in. When I moved to Joliet, I knew no one besides my husband. But through the community I found at that A2U church, I felt the warmth of friendship and kinship. I was seen and loved for who I was. As Unitarian Universalists, we aren't called to indoctrinate or convert anyone, but we are called to see people for who they are and welcome them into our fold and hold each other in the warmth of community. What I love about A2Us is that we contain multitudes, as Walt Whitman and I think Rick Kimball at one point said. To make a fire, we need a spark, and a spark requires friction. We need our diversity that creates the spark by our ideas rubbing up against each other. This gentle friction creates the fires that warms us and makes us a welcoming community. In these cold days, may we seek to keep each other warm by widening and opening our circle of light, love, and community.
Good morning, I'm Anna Noyes-Benoit. Recently, many Mainers lost power during a windy winter storm, and that included me and my family. And this was the first time in over 30 years that this has happened to us, and the very first since we moved back to Portland in 1981. While there had been brief power losses, usually lasting less than an hour, this was the first one that continued overnight and into the next day. I remember growing up in a Portland suburb, long power losses that seemed like a lark, including board games around the fireplace by candlelight. And I loved it when my mother made pancakes on a Coleman propane stove. I guess the opposite of warmth is chilled. After 12 hours, our house was getting very cold. The day turned to dark, and we moved into evening. I began to experience fear related to how cold the house was getting. We speculated about when the power might come on and the furnace come on again. And I worried about freezing pipes. Plus, I worried about all the Christmas food in the refrigerator. We were very lucky that our capable and resourceful son was staying with us over the holiday, and we were grateful for his wilderness training as well as his confidence. I have discovered how important being warm in winter is, and have gotten to the age where I notice a temperature, even in the mid-60s, as being chilly, and often wear sweaters when others don't. In the summer, I don't mind the heat, even when it gets up in the upper 90s, unless it's very humid. I love the feeling of being warm and understand why people long to be in Florida or some sunny place when the weather gets cool. But there's nothing cozier than a warm blanket, a hot cup of tea, and a good book. Being warm makes me feel safe and reduces stress. It is a pleasant and friendly feeling. But people can be warm too. These folks draw others to them like a campfire and seem trustworthy and friendly. Over the past 9 months, marked by the sudden death of our daughter, we've been grateful for all the warm and caring family and friends and the support and warmth of this congregation. I offer you the following New Year's blessing by Bridget Anna McNeil. Be gentle with that tender heart of yours. It may be holding a year's worth of grief inside it. Be careful with all those parts of you that feel life's tender moments, childhood pains, and unmet emotions. Take yourself out into the gathering light and breathe the bright ember into the very center of you, into your heart's soft red middle, holding yourself in love and warmth. Wake your heart slowly, allowing it to be felt, allowing yourself to create space with the rest and to rest and to breathe. Let the coming light light up your bones and remind you of the gold that is held deep within you. Thank you.
My name is Erica Bartlett, and I've always liked the phrase warm and fuzzy. Even hearing it evokes a bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling, a sense of comfort and reassurance. And I still remember when I was in senior youth group, and we held warm and fuzzy cons here at A2U2. We did a lot of things that made us feel warm and fuzzy, like eat pizza, play games, watch silly movies, and wear cozy slippers. Until recently, though, I didn't know that the phrase originated from a story that Claude Steiner wrote in 1969 called The Warm Fuzzy Tale. The short version is that once upon a time, everyone had a fuzzy bag that they could reach into and get a warm fuzzy to give someone, and it would make the other person feel warm and fuzzy. The story doesn't say exactly what these fuzzies looked like, but I picture them like Star Trek tribbles. Round, furry things that have soothing trilling or purring noises. Everyone in the story exchanged warm fuzzies freely until a mean person convinced people in town that the warm fuzzies would run out, and so they should only be given out for special reasons and to certain people. So instead, people began to give each other cold pricklies. And as you might imagine, this didn't make anyone happy. But then another person came to visit the town where this was going on, and she gave her warm fuzzies out to anyone who wanted one, like people used to. And soon the children followed her lead, handing out warm fuzzies as often as they liked, while the adults remained stingy. The story ends there, with Steiner asking if you, as the reader, will join the children and help return the world to a time when warm fuzzies were given freely. Of course, we don't all have an actual bag full of warm fuzzies, but I get his point. We can certainly do other things to spread that feeling. Helping others is one good option, but it does seem that we as a society do less of that these days. One study found that the percentage of households in the US that donate to charities dropped from 66% to 50% from 2000 to 2018, and it could be even lower now. That sounds kind of like people not giving as many warm fuzzies out. And it's not just donating. People are volunteering less too, which is bad all around. It's certainly bad for those who need help, but it's also not good for those who aren't helping. A recent article noted that people are ingrained to help others. That could be writing a check, but it could also be as simple as holding the door for someone or helping someone who dropped things on the floor. And when we don't do that, we become poorer in spirit. This certainly rings true for me. I know I always feel lifted a bit when I've helped someone else, even if it's in a small way, like giving someone enough change to take the bus, or giving directions to lost tourists, or spending a little extra time to get someone information that they were having trouble finding. And I don't think it's limited to helping people either. I know I'm always happy to stop to let the ducks cross the road, or these days, let the geese cross the road down by Deering Oaks. Now, I know it's certainly not possible, and probably not even desirable, for everyone to feel warm and fuzzy all the time. But considering that such feelings seem to be in short supply these days, I also think it would be a good thing to try to spread a bit more of that around, in whatever way we can. And I invite you now to join us in our closing hymn, number 345 in the gray hymnal, "With Joy We Claim the Growing Light." The words will also be on the screen. Dale will play it through once, and then we'll join in. And you can rise in body or spirit.
these closing words by Deborah Burrell. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond. Please stay seated for the closing music.
This didn't make it into the order of service. This is the swallowtail reel. And think of that butterfly in chrysalis and the warmth of that coming out into the real world and the transition there of us going from this warm community out into the real world. But also think of this tune as a place where if you were dancing to it, and I invite you to get up and do more than just tap your feet, you might get a little warm and you might feel community by dancing with other people.